The Galactic Exchange Program, initially conceived as a series of stuffy conferences and trade agreements, had, through a series of bureaucratic mishaps and a surprising amount of interspecies curiosity, morphed into something else. Instead of solemn diplomats in zero-gravity chambers, you had wide-eyed aliens trying to figure out why humans wore shoes indoors and why their food smelled like a complex chemical experiment. The core idea remained simple: to foster better understanding. Species from across the galaxy would swap places, experiencing life on another planet for a standard Earth year, or whatever the equivalent was in their respective timekeeping systems. This was supposed to break down interspecies barriers, promote cultural sensitivity, and, as one overly optimistic Thar administrator put it, minimize the risk of accidental interspecies war due to misunderstanding of local customs. Humans, bless their chaotic hearts, embraced this program with an enthusiasm that bordered on the absurd. They sent their brightest and best, and sometimes, it seemed, whoever won the departmental office lottery, to the far corners of the galaxy. And they welcomed aliens to Earth with open arms, a slightly concerning lack of preparation, and a tendency to offer them whatever was in the fridge. It's not that humans weren't intelligent or well-meaning. It's just that their frame of reference was different. They'd grown up on a planet where breakfast could be anything from a bowl of sugary cereal that turned the milk radioactive pink to a plate of eggs and bacon that seemed designed to defy the laws of physics and dietary science. They'd navigated rush-hour traffic that resembled a demolition derby with rules. They'd watched television shows about singing competitions judged by people with even more bizarre hairstyles than some of the aliens. So, when a delegation of beings from a planet of sentient clouds arrived, the humans, while polite, didn't quite grasp the delicate nuances of their atmospheric needs. "Welcome to Earth," chirped a human representative, a cheerful woman named Brenda, holding up a sign that read "Cloud Delegation" in glittery letters. "We're so excited to have you. We've prepared a lovely observation deck for you. It's on the roof of this skyscraper." The clouds, who communicated through subtle shifts in color and density, rippled with what might have been anxiety. Their leader, a particularly majestic cumulonimbus named Nimbus 7, attempted to convey their concerns. "We appreciate the gesture," Nimbus 7 transmitted, his voice a low rumble that made the nearby pigeons scatter. "But skyscrapers, they tend to disrupt airflow, and observation decks are often exposed." Brenda, ever helpful, beamed. "Oh, don't worry about that. We have fans, big ones, and we can put up some netting to keep you from, drifting away." The clouds exchanged uneasy puffs. They were from a planet where the weather was controlled by a sophisticated network of atmospheric regulators, where every breeze was precisely calibrated for maximum comfort. The idea of being subjected to the whims of Earth's fans and netting was, to put it mildly, unsettling. Their first experience with Earth weather came during a tour of the Grand Canyon. The humans, having checked their weather apps, which, of course, all gave conflicting forecasts, assured the clouds that it would be a dry heat. "You'll love it," Mark, their tour guide, exclaimed. "The views are incredible, and the air is so invigorating." The clouds, ever trusting, agreed. They floated majestically over the canyon, their forms shifting and swirling in awe of the vast landscape. Then, the wind picked up. Now, on a planet of sentient clouds, wind was a carefully managed phenomenon. A gentle zephyr, perhaps, to encourage a bit of creative cloud sculpting. A stronger gust for, well, cloud racing. But this was something else. The wind howled through the canyon, buffeting the clouds like they were giant, fluffy things being blown around. The clouds, who had never experienced such a lack of control over their own forms, panicked. "What is happening?" Nimbus 7 transmitted, his voice a panicked static. "We are dispersing. We are losing cohesion." Smaller clouds were ripped away, swirling off into the distance like runaway cotton candy. Larger clouds struggled to maintain their shape, their edges fraying and dissolving into wispy tendrils. The humans, meanwhile, were having a grand time. "Hoo-hoo," Mark yelled, holding onto his hat. "Feels great, doesn't it? A little windy, but nothing a good pair of sunglasses can't handle." Brenda was taking selfies with the swirling clouds in the background, oblivious to their distress. "Look at this. It's like we're in a cloud tornado. Hashtag Grand Canyon Adventures, hashtag Windy AF." The clouds, however, were not amused. They tried to communicate their distress, but their voices were lost in the howling wind. Their attempts to maintain their forms were becoming increasingly desperate. Some tried to anchor themselves to the canyon walls, resulting in bizarre, dolly-esque formations. Others tried to huddle together, creating a chaotic, swirling mass of vapor. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the wind died down. The remaining clouds, battered and bruised, limped back to their designated observation deck, which, it turned out, was indeed a rather exposed platform on the roof of a skyscraper, complete with industrial-strength fans that only served to further disorient them. Well, that was bracing, Brenda said cheerfully, offering them a pitcher of water, which, to the clouds, was roughly equivalent to offering a human a bowl of gravel. You clouds are so dynamic, always changing shape. It's fascinating. Nimbus, 7, who had managed to reconstitute himself into something vaguely resembling his former majestic form, transmitted a weary sigh. We are going to need a very long rest. The rest of the exchange program did not go much better. The clouds found Earth's atmosphere to be a constant assault on their senses. The humidity was either suffocatingly thick or bone-dry. The temperature fluctuated wildly, from scorching heat that threatened to evaporate them to freezing cold that turned them into, well, slightly denser clouds. And the rain. Oh, the rain. On Crystal Lawn, rain was a carefully controlled release of purified water vapor, designed to nourish their delicate crystalline structures. On Earth, it was a torrential downpour that felt like being pelted with tiny, angry pebbles. The clouds tried to explain their needs, but the humans, while sympathetic, didn't quite grasp the concept of atmospheric sensitivity. We appreciate your feedback, Brenda said after a particularly harrowing hailstorm. We'll try to adjust the thermostat and maybe get some softer rain. The clouds, defeated, retreated to their hotel rooms, which, to their dismay, were located on the top floors of various skyscrapers, where they spent the rest of their exchange program huddled under special humidifiers, dreaming of the predictable, gentle climate of their homeworld. The Xylar, with their obsession with logic and order, fared little better. They arrived on Earth with a detailed itinerary, a precise schedule, and a series of complex equations designed to predict and optimize their experience. Their first challenge was, of course, the weather. Xylar, the Xylar businessman who had previously tangled with Seattle's meteorological unpredictability, was back, this time leading a delegation of Xylar academics. He was determined to conquer Earth's weather with the power of Xylar science. We will analyze your atmospheric patterns, he declared to a group of bewildered meteorologists. We will identify the underlying algorithms. We will bring order to this chaos. The meteorologists, who were used to dealing with the chaotic whims of jet streams and El Niño patterns, exchanged nervous glances. Good luck with that, one of them muttered. Xylar and his team set up a series of elaborate weather stations, bristling with sensors and antennae. They launched weather balloons equipped with Xylar technology that looked suspiciously like giant, glowing orbs. They even tried to communicate with the clouds, using a complex series of light signals that the clouds found mildly offensive. Their efforts, of course, were in vain. Earth's weather refused to conform to their equations. Storms appeared out of nowhere. Sunny days turned into blizzards in a matter of hours. And the wind seemed to delight in mocking their carefully calibrated instruments. The data is illogical, Xylar exclaimed, tearing at his antennae in frustration. There are too many variables. Too many. Random fluctuations. It is as if your planet is sentient, and it is deliberately trolling us. The Xylar, however, were not easily deterred. They decided to take a more direct approach. They would build a weather-controlling device. On Xylar, weather control was a matter of precise engineering. They had giant machines that could regulate temperature, humidity, and precipitation with the touch of a button. They saw no reason why they couldn't do the same on Earth. They acquired a large warehouse on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, a location they chose because, as Xylar put it, it appears to be a region of maximal meteorological instability, thus providing an optimal testing environment. They filled it with their equipment, which included giant generators, massive antennae, and a device that hummed with ominous energy and crackled with arcs of purple lightning. Their plan was ambitious, to create a localized zone of perfect Xylar weather. A bubble of calm, predictable atmospheric conditions in the heart of Tornado Alley. Their first test, however, did not go as planned. They activated the device. There was a loud hum, a flash of light, and then nothing. The weather outside remained stubbornly Earth-like. Increase power, Xylar ordered. The Xylar technicians complied. The device hummed louder, the lights flickered, and the ground began to tremble. Outside, a funnel cloud began to form. The Xylar, initially, were pleased. "It is working," Xylar exclaimed. "We are creating a stable atmospheric vortex." Then they realized that this stable atmospheric vortex was heading directly for their warehouse. "Shut it down," Xylar yelled. "Shut it down before it destabilizes us." The technicians scrambled to deactivate the device, but it was too late. The tornado hit the warehouse with the force of 1,000 angry gods. The warehouse was ripped apart. The weather-controlling device was scattered across the landscape in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. And the Xylar, battered and covered in debris, found themselves in the middle of a swirling vortex of wind and rain. "This is unacceptable," Xylar sputtered, clinging to a piece of twisted metal as he was spun around and around. "Your planet. It resists all attempts at rational control." The tornado eventually dissipated, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation. The Xylar, soaked, bruised, and utterly defeated, surveyed the wreckage. "We have failed," Xylar admitted, his voice a defeated whisper. "Your weather, it is a force of nature. A chaotic, unpredictable, and ultimately, untamable force of nature." The Xylar left Earth with a newfound respect for the power of its weather and a healthy fear of Oklahoma. They also took with them a large collection of human weather forecasting devices, hoping to understand their primitive technology, but ultimately concluding that they were more like decorative paperweights than scientific instruments. The Volcrons, ever the warriors, decided to take a more proactive approach to dealing with Earth's weather. They would conquer it. Xylar, the Volcran leader who had been humiliated by London's reign, returned to Earth with a new plan. He assembled a team of his fiercest warriors, equipped them with specialized gear, and declared war on the elements. "We will not be defeated by your puny rain," he roared, addressing the sky. "We will not be intimidated by your feeble winds. We are Volcrons. We will conquer your weather, or we will die trying." Their first target was a hurricane brewing off the coast of Florida. The Volcrons, in their specialized, heat-resistant armor, flew towards the storm in their heavily modified starship, the Stormbreaker. Their plan was simple: fly into the eye of the hurricane and punch it. "We will disrupt its flow," Xylar explained to his bewildered crew. "We will introduce chaos into its orderly structure. We will hit it really hard." The Stormbreaker plunged into the swirling chaos of the hurricane. The Volcrons, strapped into their seats, braced themselves for the impact. "Brace for turbulence," Xylar yelled, "and prepare to engage." The Stormbreaker shook violently as it was tossed around by the storm. Rain lashed against the viewport. Lightning crackled around them. The Volcrons, to their credit, did not flinch. "We are approaching the eye," Xylar announced. "Prepare for atmospheric interface." The Stormbreaker burst into the relative calm of the eye of the hurricane. The Volcrons, for a moment, were triumphant. "We have done it," Xylar roared. "We have conquered the storm." Then the hurricane roared back. The eye of the storm, it turned out, was not as calm as they had anticipated. The Volcrons found themselves in the middle of a swirling vortex of incredible power. The Stormbreaker was tossed around like a toy. The Volcrons, in their heavy armor, were thrown against the walls. "This is more intense than anticipated," Xylar yelled, clinging to a handrail for dear life. Perhaps punching it was not the optimal strategy. The hurricane, unimpressed by their attempts at fisticuffs, continued to rage. The Volcrons, battered and bruised, managed to escape the eye of the storm, their tails between their legs. Their next attempt to conquer the weather involved a blizzard in Chicago. The Volcrons, in their heat-resistant armor, which, it turned out, was not very effective against cold, tried to melt the snow with their ship's powerful lasers. This, predictably, did not work. The snow, instead of melting, turned into a fine mist that immediately froze into ice, coating the city in a treacherous layer of slickness. The Volcrons, who were not used to walking on ice, slipped and slid all over the place, their attempts at conquering the blizzard reduced to a series of undignified pratfalls. "This frozen precipitation is most treacherous," Xylar complained, sprawled on the icy sidewalk. It lacks the honorable resistance of a sandstorm. It is slippery treachery. Their final attempt involved a heat wave in Death Valley. The Volcrons, in their heat-resistant armor, attempted to out-heat the heat. They turned their ship's engines to maximum power, creating a localized inferno. This, surprisingly, worked for a few minutes. The temperature in Death Valley soared to even more ridiculous levels. The Volcrons, for a brief moment, felt almost comfortable. Then, the heat became too much even for them. Their armor began to melt. Their cooling systems overloaded, and they were forced to retreat, their dreams of conquering the weather reduced to a sweaty, defeated mess. "We have failed to conquer your weather," Xylar admitted, his voice hoarse and defeated. "It is too unreasonable. It is a foe worthy of respect and a very wide berth." The Volcrons left Earth with a newfound respect for the power of its weather and a firm belief that it was a battle best left unfought. They also took with them a large collection of human winter clothing, which they found surprisingly cozy. These stories, and countless others, became part of the legend of the Galactic Exchange Program. They were tales of species misunderstanding, cultural clashes, and the indomitable power of Earth's weather. They were stories that were told and retold across the galaxy, around interspecies campfires, in smoky alien bars, and in the halls of stellar universities. They became a reminder that even in a galaxy filled with advanced technology and incredible wonders, there were some things that remained stubbornly, hilariously, and undeniably unpredictable, and that sometimes the best way to deal with the universe was to laugh at it. The Galactic Exchange Program continued, of course. New aliens arrived on Earth every year, eager to experience human culture and utterly unprepared for the weather. They came with their expectations, their assumptions, and their carefully laid plans. And they left with their minds blown, their bodies battered, and a collection of stories that would make even the most seasoned galactic traveler shake their head in disbelief. And the humans? They just kept shrugging, offering hot chocolate, and saying, "Welcome to Earth. Hope you enjoy that experience." To bring the story closer to the 7,000 word count and to add more humor, I'll expand on a few sections and add some new scenarios. Additional scenarios and expansions. The fungoids of fungal prime. The fungoids of fungal prime were a species that thrived in damp, dark environments with a constant temperature of 21 degrees Celsius and 99% humidity. Earth, as you can imagine, was their idea of a nightmare. When the first fungoid delegation arrived in Seattle, they were greeted by cheerful humans in Gore-Tex jackets. "Welcome to the Emerald City," chirped their host, a barista named Kevin. "It's a bit drizzly today, but you'll get used to it." The fungoids, who communicated through a series of bioluminescent pulses, flickered with dismay. Drizzly, their leader, a large, pulsating mushroom-like being named mycelius, transmitted. This is a torrential downpour. Our outer membranes are dissolving." Kevin, ever helpful, offered them umbrellas. The fungoids stared at the umbrellas with confusion. "What are these?" "Personal precipitation shields." Mycelius asked. "Why would you need such a thing?" Their first week in Seattle was a comedy of errors. They tried to stay indoors, but even the buildings had this strange, pervasive dampness that the humans called humidity. They attempted to venture outside, wearing specialized moisture suits, but the constant changes in temperature and the unpredictable bursts of sunlight caused their suits to malfunction, resulting in a series of embarrassing deflations. They tried to find solace in the local cuisine, but the humans' obsession with dry foods was beyond their comprehension. "Why is this bread so crumbly?" Mycelius asked, staring at a slice of toast with disgust. "It is like eating dehydrated mycelium." The fungoids exchange program was cut short after a particularly disastrous encounter with a rogue sprinkler system. The fungoids, mistaking the sprinkler for some kind of hostile weather phenomenon, panicked and released a cloud of spores that caused the entire neighborhood to hallucinate. The humans, after a few days of seeing giant, dancing squirrels, decided that perhaps the fungoids would be happier back on fungal prime. The aquatic floations of Aquatica 7. The aquatic floations of Aquatica 7 were, as their name suggested, an aquatic species. They lived in a world of perpetual twilight, where the temperature was a constant 10 degrees Celsius, and the pressure was, well, let's just say it was very high. When a group of floations arrived on Earth, they were understandably concerned about the lack of water. Where is the ocean? Their leader, a large, gelatinous being named Bubbles, transmitted through a translator device. We require immersion. The humans, in their infinite wisdom, decided to take them to the nearest water park. You'll love it, exclaimed their host, a lifeguard named Chad. We have the biggest wave pool in the state, and tons of water slides. The Floatians, initially, were intrigued. The wave pool, with its simulated waves, was almost tolerable. They even enjoyed the sensation of being splashed. But the water slides, that was another story. The Floatians, being gelatinous, were not designed for speed. They used down the slides at a snail's pace, much to the amusement and annoyance of the human children behind them. Hurry up, you blob, one of the children yelled. The Floatians, who were highly sensitive to changes in pressure, found the sudden drops and twists of the water slides to be disorienting, to say the least. My internal pressure is fluctuating wildly, Bubbles transmitted as he emerged from a particularly twisty slide, looking rather deflated. I feel like I am being squeezed through a very small orifice. Their visit to the water park ended in disaster when a group of human teenagers decided it would be funny to help the Floatians down the slides. The teenagers, using a high-pressure hose, sent the Floatians flying through the air like large, gelatinous projectiles. The Floatians, terrified and traumatized, demanded to be taken back to their hotel, which, to their dismay, was a series of interconnected bathtubs filled with heavily salted water. They spent the rest of their exchange program in their bathtubs, dreaming of the calm, predictable pressures of Aquatica 7 and ordering room service, which, for them, consisted of large vats of plankton smoothie. The Great Intergalactic Bake-Off Fiasco. To promote species harmony, the Galactic Exchange Program decided to host a bake-off. Each species would present a culinary masterpiece from their home planet. The humans, naturally, were confident. They had cake, and cookies, and pies, and things covered in frosting. The aliens, however, had other things. The fungoids, for example, presented a multi-tiered structure made of bioluminescent fungi that pulsed with an unsettling array of colors and smelled faintly of wet socks. The aquatic Floatians offered a shimmering, gelatinous concoction made of fermented plankton that tasted vaguely of the deep sea. The Xylar brought a series of perfectly symmetrical cubes made of a substance that was either incredibly hard or incredibly soft, depending on the ambient temperature. The Volcrons, predictably, brought something that involved fire. A molten lava cake, to be precise, that set off the smoke alarms and caused several minor burns. The humans, initially, were enthusiastic. They sampled each dish with gusto, their faces contorting into a series of increasingly bizarre expressions. This fungal delight is certainly unique, Brenda exclaimed, trying to swallow a bite of the fungoid creation without gagging. The plankton surprise has a certain je-ne-sais-quoi, Mark said, trying to smile through the taste of fermented something. These cubes are a marvel of engineering, Chkar declared, chipping a tooth on the Xylar treat. The Volcron lava cake, however, proved to be a bit much. It's a bit spicy, Chad gasped, his face turning red. Spicy? Arthur roared. That is merely a gentle warmth. A true Volcron delicacy would melt your face off. The bake-off ended in chaos. The humans, overwhelmed by the unique flavors and textures of the alien cuisine, retreated to the safety of their own desserts. The aliens, offended by the humans' lack of culinary adventurousness, began to argue amongst themselves. The fungoids complained that the human desserts were devoid of any real fungal complexity. The Floatians protested that they were far too dry. The Xylar insisted that they were aesthetically displeasing. And the Volcrons, well, the Volcrons just wanted to set everything on fire. In the end, no one won the bake-off. The humans went home with a newfound appreciation for the relative normalcy of their own food. The aliens went home with a collection of human recipes, which they promptly modified to suit their own unique tastes. And the Galactic Exchange Program learned a valuable lesson. Food is even more complicated than the weather.